But when the money comes in, that doesn't mean that there's something left yet.
The biggest thing is you're not their only client. You know what I mean?
You're not their only client.
Know how to read a balance sheet, basically. I think too. I mean, like, be in 10 years. You know where they're gonna be.
Chuck's real cheap. You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. We're charting. Check the Apple charts for us in the business marketing podcast category. We've reached as high as number 92, and we are just speaking to you in the roofing industry. So to me, that's amazing. That means we got a lot of people tuning in, and that our content is really important to the people listening. So we really appreciate that. Leave us a review on there. If you're on Apple, leave us a review. If you're on YouTube watching, hit subscribe. All the other places, hit reviews, subscribe, follow, comment, share, all that type of stuff. We really appreciate that. Today, we're here with Lance Sherry from Buckeye Roofing out in the great state of Ohio. How you doing, man?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Good. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into roofing, man. How'd you get into roofing?
Oh, where do I start here? All right. So I went to college at Ohio State, graduated. I'm a Buckeye, of course, hence the name Buckeye Roofing. So got my education degree, actually, and got out of school, struggled finding a job. Had a buddy that ran a roofing company around the area where I was from, and so I decided to start working for him. Got up on the roof, did a lot of roofs myself. Didn't really care for that, and decided that I was a heck of a lot better at selling them than I was doing them. So started selling. Then after a few years of doing roofs, and then I was just good at it. So I got Rookie of the Year for my company the first year, and then worked for them for a while, kept doing sales. And about 7 years ago, started Buckeye Roofing on my own. So never went back to education.
Where did that? Yeah, where do you think that came from? Like, not everyone can come out swinging in the roofing industry, right? Like as a sales rep and things like that. Where'd that come from with you? Like, did you do a lot of training? Is that just something?
Yeah.
That just in you? Where'd that come from?
I mean, I have an educational background. So when I dove into roofing, I mean, I wanted to know everything there is to know about a roof. I mean, I've done hundreds of roofs myself, you know what I mean? And so I just took that approach as a customer. I wasn't, I don't really say I was real salesy, but I knew what I was talking about whenever, a customer asked me a question and things like that. So I just kind of caught on and educated the customer more than sold them, and just good at it. It just worked out well for me. I think that's what I hear more and more and believe true also myself is that, today's selling it's more educating consumers, right? They have Google, right? They have Google. They're gonna, they can check your story, right? Exactly. They can do a lot of things. But someone has a more educational approach. Mm-hmm. It feels better. It does.
Right?
I mean, it does. I don't want them to have, buyer's remorse when I walk out there. I mean, I took the approach to where I was going to educate them on their investment way more than anybody else that came into that house. So when I walked out, they knew everything that we were doing, and it just made them feel comfortable.
That's an important part of the process. You said everything that we were doing. Mm-hmm. I think that's where I've said this a few times on the podcast, but one of the things that I'm big on is that if a customer is wondering, you're losing, exactly. Right? Like, so if they wonder, man, when are my materials going to be ordered? When are they going to be out here to do? When is this or why did that happen? If let's say you get materials dropped off the day before, why did why are these here? Right? Like anytime that they have to think that you haven't explained the process. So with that education background, how have you approached that?
So I just believe in transparency, 100% transparency and over communication, basically. I mean, like everything that I showed them or that I went over, we delivered on. There was no smoke and mirrors. There was no, I'm telling you this just to get a sale. It was, educating them, sitting them down, answering any questions that they had, and kind of over explaining to them, sometimes multiple times. So that way they understand when I walk out, instead of, me, blabbing on for an hour and then I walk out and then they remember, 2 minutes of what I said or only a couple things and have no idea still what they're getting. All I know is they paid, $20,000 for a shingle and have no idea what else that we're going to be doing.
That's a big one, right? Like it's a big purchase for people.
It is.
And so, in that now, that was when you started out, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Now you're in what are you in the eighth year of Buckeye? Seventh year of Buckeye?
2016. So yeah, 7 years.
Yeah. So now you're in the 7th year of ownership. Mm-hmm. How many reps you got? Are you running now? Is it?
Believe it or not, it's just myself.
Just you. So this is a different conversation, right? So now, because you're in that, you're in that 5 mil range, right? Like you're up in that 5 mil range. You're just selling it yourself.
I am. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't. So I started off with a business partner and
okay.
It was a female who had worked for me before, was one of my sales reps. So we decided to go on our own, split the business 50-50. And then, so she would kind of help out a little bit more on some sales, not that much, but I ran majority of the appointments. So I always had that person to kind of fall back on to help take care of some of the stuff in the office and things like that. Well, just recently after, during the 5th year, I bought her out. She decided to retire. I bought her out. And so now I needed to change some things around with the business, and I was able to do things how I wanted to do them instead of having to, everybody knows as a business partner, sometimes you agree and a lot of times you don't,
That's right.
So I was able to implement those, and now I just wanted to I had to change some things, hire some different people, get some people in the right seat of the bus. And I'm just used to sales, man. I get out there every day. I can't sit in my office. I have all the people in the office to take care of everything that I need. And I'm able to go out and go on job sites, and, knock on neighbors' doors, do the selling. And that's just what I enjoy. That's what I've done for years.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think owners a lot of times, they don't feel like they don't follow that internal communication with themselves, right? Like, I like to sell. I like to be out there. I like to be out of the office. Like, I like to do that. If you enjoy that, right? Like, make sure that's, if you're building a business, right? Make sure that's the last, like, hey, I want to still do this part of it. Now, to sell $4-6 million a year, well, you're working.
This is what I'm used to. I'm used to waking up early, putting in those long days. You know what I mean? And I like getting out and dealing with customers. I like talking face to face with people. And being in a small community, I felt as though I needed to be out there and build that more before I started bringing in outside salespeople. Because in the beginning, when you're running your company, no one's going to represent your business like the owner. They're just not. They're not going to have that passion that you have. So I wanted to brand myself and to be able to build that reputation with the community, to be able to, all right, well, now it's time. I've got all this set up. Now it's time for me to bring in, a couple sales guys, and I can train them the way I want to. I'm never going to get out of selling. I'm just not. Like, it's not. Yeah. It's just not me. I got to get out there and deal and talk to the customers and do that. I'll just never get out of there. But eventually, I'm getting to the point to where it is a lot of work, and I'm going to have to soon. So,
yeah. So now for someone who wants to, I know a couple of really successful contractors like yourself that have built their business this way, that they sell it all. But I think the key is to put the team in place to support you getting out there every day.
Yeah, exactly.
How have you thought about that? How did that what did it look like it looked like it was your business partner was probably a lot of your support in the beginning. Now, how have you built that side of things for yourself?
I just recruited basically. I mean, I brought in, I promoted some people within and made, one of my longest tenure guys and, a project manager overseeing all the, the quality control of the job that's going on. I brought in a full-time production manager. I have a full-time CFO, full-time office and marketing manager now that I didn't have before. So, getting those people trained the last 2 years is I mean, that's key. I'm able to go out there and sell and do whatever because I know everything on the back end, is taken care of.
For sure. What and I mean, you got to trust that process, right? So how did that come to be? It said, like you said, that one of your most tenured people, you promoted into that position and things like that. What did it take from your side of things, right, to like really trust that you could go out and sell all day and that things were being handled?
Well, just like, hiring the project manager, I mean, seeing his passion, his commitment, I knew that he's committed, and, the guy, he doesn't go anywhere in public without being logoed as well. I mean, like he goes out to dinner, and his wife gets on him because he wears a Buckeye Roofing polo. You know what I mean? Like he's just there. He's done it for 30 years. He's he loves the business. He loves us. We're a family. I mean, he's just the model employee. So it was time. So
well, I guess that's something to think about, right? Like it's is someone really bought into your vision, right? Yeah. Like, and do they really believe in what you're doing?
Yeah.
Boy, if they're wearing your polo to dinner on Saturday night,
yeah.
Either they don't want to think about what they wear, or they're, I don't like to think about what I wear, so I just have a closet full of logoed stuff of my own, right? Like, so it's pretty easy for me. But 90%. Do you think that can be? Is that something that can be, I mean, I don't know, developed in someone, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to think about it from an employee's perspective, just to kind of side note that, like, when someone joins a company, they're probably just as much not sure about the company as you are not sure about their performance in the future.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's just to me, it's just building that culture. I mean, it's that family culture. I mean, I take care of my guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just, they don't call me boss. They're not employees. They're team members. I mean, we're a team. So I'm no different. I'll go scrub the toilets. Like if I have to, it doesn't matter to me. They see me doing that stuff. I've gotten on roofs, and I work with the guys, if they're shorthanded, I don't have to anymore because I've gotten to that point where I haven't had enough guys to do that. But back in, few years ago, I would put on my work boots and I would get up there on the roof and I would tear off with them. It's just building that respect, and they see that and they know that, hey, this guy's just not here for a paycheck. He really cares about us. I take care of him. We have team days, multiple times a year where we go do activities, charter a boat, take them fishing, just all kinds of stuff.
That's important, right? Like that's important. And that team builds over time. How big's the team now?
So I run with I have 3 roofing crews now. I have a siding crew. I have a gutter crew. I have 2 full-time repair techs. Like I said, project manager, production manager, CFO, marketing office manager. So we've got a lot of guys in and out every day. So.
Yeah. So when you're, as you get that going, one of the things, just as you were saying about crews, do you do in-house or subcontracted?
So we do subs. We call when we
right.
really use the word subs. We're kind of in-house. We call them in-house.
Yeah,
crews.
Exactly.
I mean, they work for us.
Yep.
They've been the same crews we've used for years, and they only work for us. They get done, and they don't go work for anybody else. But basically, the only one that I sub out is the roofing crews. Everything else is in-house.
Got it. What are your thoughts on like on team day? Are the crews invited too?
Absolutely.
right?
Everybody. If I cater, I'll cater a lunch and I'll bring in the crews are welcome. Like they are our team. They bust their butts every single day. Like I don't feel as though that they should be separated from anybody else.
That's where I think it's kind of a weird thing, but I think that sometimes some companies build a separation, and the relationships that you build not only with your production manager and your office person and like it might go even further with the crews, right? Like there's
and I seen that we saw that at the beginning, and it was, to me, that was kind of it was a little bit of a hurdle to get over it, because I think that's what those crews are used to, because those companies, would divide that, and it would be, okay, we're here, there's the crews, and they wouldn't mingle. And so it took me a little bit to convince them, like, hey, we're team.
It's okay.
We're all the team. We work together. You help us. We're going to help you. Like we're all on the same page here.
Yeah, but everyone I know that does it, that exists that way, right? That makes sure that we're all working together. It all vibes so much better, right?
It really does.
Have you ever run into a time where that relationship that you've built with the crew, you think that if we didn't have that kind of relationship, this could have went a different way?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because they're willing to go. I mean, I've had crews in the past, years ago, to where they don't want to go. If it's not on their work order, they're not doing it, because it is there for, they're there for a paycheck. But the crews that we have now are genuinely, invested in that. If a homeowner, sees something, or there's, something else that needs to be done that's maybe not on the work order, they take care of them. They take care of it for them, because they know that we as a company would want what's best for the customer. So whatever needs to be done, they just do it. And, the project manager is key to making that happen as well too. So it's just a respect thing. They respect us, respect the customer. They know that if it's they're showing up to a Buckeye Roof, and they're Buckeye Roofing.
Does your project manager go out on every build, or
every build?
How do you manage that?
He oversees every single job. So he visits every single job. He makes sure, when he's there, when the materials are getting delivered, making sure that everything is right color, right everything,
color.
You know what I mean? He's just making sure all that's done. I mean, he's checking on the crews, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. I mean, if he's there, he's making sure that the ground's spotless. Maybe not leaving ruts from the equipter, little odds and end things, little detail work that needs done. He just basically overseeing all the quality control, talking to the customer, over communicating with them during the day. If there's bad sheeting, he makes sure and communicates that right away, send them pictures, all that stuff. So that's his job.
At what point of your business did that position get created?
When I took it over. Because before, I was from that sales time to where you sold the job, you ordered the materials, you oversaw the job, you collected the check. Well, I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? I just don't. To the point to where I realized that we have somebody that's better than me at that. And why would I want to do that when this guy is tailor-made for that job? I mean, he knows everything there is to know about a roof, and has been there, done that, installed everything, knows how to do all that. I'm not saying I don't, but he's way better at me, way better than me at that. So I decided to move him into that position, and hence that freed me up more to be able to, run more appointments, or, like I said, knock on doors during the job site, and be able to, be that face to the neighbors.
And that's part of it. Like it's like, I think it's in it from an ownership perspective. Sometimes it's like, but I could do it better.
Yeah.
You may be able to do it better, but not with the time that you have allotted in your day.
Yeah, exactly.
Is, I think, a lot of times, right? Like, and when you hand the reins over to someone and they have, 40 or so hours a week, just to do that,
Yeah.
that they might not be as good as you. And I'm throwing air quotes up for people listening, right? Like as good as you. They may not be as good as you, but they have 100% focus on that
You're exactly
every
right.
day,
Yeah. I would get to a job
right?
site, I maybe have, a half hour or hour to my next appointment, and then I'd have to leave and then I'm gone. He can be there. That's his job, going back and forth to each job day to day, all day. And so he's, like you said,
Yeah,
he's 100% focused on making sure that quality is there and taking care of that customer.
yeah. It's an amazing thing to happen, and it changes the again with like when we're talking about like the education process and then into the communication rhythm with the customer, with
Yep.
with the homeowner. That's a different thing when you can pop by for a few minutes
Yep.
versus someone who can spend the time to be there.
That means a
Have you
lot.
seen the conversation change with the customers? Has it
Big time.
led to more
Big time.
reviews? Is it like, what has it led to for you?
So after every job, so I always try to stop by the job site while it's going on. And there'd be some days where
Yep.
I'm swamped and I can't, when we have, 3 roofs going on at the same time and maybe in different cities, different towns, I can't get to everyone. So I
Yeah.
rely heavily on him as a production manager and also my inside production manager to keep contact with him as well too, to make sure things are going right, make sure he's doing his job as well. So I meet though after every job is done, I do a follow up with every single homeowner. So, and in that follow up, I ask them if they have any questions, concerns. How was the install crew? How was communication? And I've always used to do that in the past, but I never really had to ask those questions because I was in charge of the communication. So, you know what I mean? So it was feedback on myself, but now, it's totally different because the homeowners feel safer. They're there. We
Mm.
are there all day. They know they're getting taken care of. They call somebody. They're getting a hold of somebody. As opposed to, let's say they try to
Mm.
call me. I'm at an appointment. I'm not going to answer by phone when I'm doing a sales pitch. It might be an hour or so before I get back with them. With that being calling our project manager or production manager, they're 90% of the time they're getting someone to answer the phone. If not, we're calling back within a couple minutes, and we're able to take care of it right then and there. And the feedback on the communication part is, night and day difference.
So, and I think that's that's what separates companies,
It really
is
does.
that communication rhythm. Like the ability to communicate will create gaps between you and the next company. And we talked about this when we were chatting, I don't know, a week ago or so, and it was like, you're in, what is it, Northwest Ohio,
Northwest
right?
Ohio. I'm in Defiance.
Northwest Ohio in Defiance. So what's the population of Defiance?
There's only about 16, 17,000 in the city. There's like 30,000 people maybe in the whole entire county.
Yeah. And how far do you go out? How many miles do you go?
I usually stay within 40, 45 miles from Defiance.
All right.
We have a couple neighboring
So
cities, and that's the majority of our work.
Yeah. Isn't that like, so we're talking about, you had mentioned when you're, hey, they might be in different towns, right? Like there's it's a different area, but like in that process, I have always felt that the smaller town locations, and I've talked to a few contractors that are executing on this well, like yourself, that are like, there's a lot of contractors in big metropolitan areas struggling to get to 4, 5, 6 million, right?
Yeah.
And then there's these guys like yourself out in these smaller areas, and there is not even close to the amount of people.
No.
But you guys are doing it. And I think it's just a thesis on my part, but I think it's because of the professionalism that you've built into your companies.
Yep.
And unfortunately, in smaller town markets, they're not used to the professionalism. What are your thoughts on that?
You're exactly right. We answer the phone for one. And the biggest feedback that I get from people is, they might have 3 to 5 estimates set up, and I'm the only one that shows up when I'm supposed to show up. Or, it amazes me. Or people call and they say, oh, I called 5 different companies and only one of them answered the phone. And the one they said they set an appointment with them and they just no call, no show and don't show up. And, we get a lot of jobs because we show up. If I'm running behind, because sometimes, you can't be to every appointment on time. I'll have the common courtesy to call them. Just little things like that. Hey, my last appointment ran a little bit over. I'm on my way. I'll be there in 15 minutes. That goes a long ways. And, there's a lot of companies around here that just don't do that. It's just, they just, if they don't have I don't care mentality, or it'll be okay. I'll get there when I get there mentality, or, people call and say, oh, I'll be there sometime on Tuesday or Wednesday when, no, we're going to be here Tuesday at 3:00. Like that. There's the biggest difference that I've seen.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. And I mean, that should be carried over in large markets too, right? You should
Everywhere.
be doing that in large markets also. That's
the easiest thing to do. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. It's just, and that's the biggest glowing reviews that you have. I mean, like in a small town where we're at, I do that. They're telling their friends, they're telling their family. I mean, and everybody knows everybody in small communities. And so word spreads, and if I can just get that, that kind of reputation, I'm set.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that there's no competition where you are, because I know Wagner, I know Brett, and, like he's a very good business owner too. And there's, so there's a couple of you out there, and but you guys are both, or at least you two, and maybe, there's some others out there that are also able to generate a heck of a roofing business within this area, right? Like it's amazing to me that there is not as much. Just back to my original point, it's amazing to me that there's not as much focus on that for people. It's like they want it. They got to get to, I guess, for you're in Ohio, it's like Columbus, right? Or if you go over to Indianapolis, or if you go, right, like those are big, highly competitive markets with, all the, Able Roofs and all the, all those guys out there, right? Like, and it's a path. Sometimes you can take the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. Right. And maybe you stumbled upon that. You're from there. You live there. This is where you started your company. And this is just how it began. But I think that sometimes, like, you can plan that. You don't have to be the big, or what is it? The small fish in the big pond, right?
Yeah, you don't have to be that. You can be that big fish in the small pond. I mean, it's a small community, and our community supports, they really support local. And
for sure,
and then you just have to build on that, create a good reputation.
And I think some of those things, that small town thing, I grew up between big cities and small towns. And I lived a lot of my life in northern Minnesota, small towns, and then lived in Sacramento, California, and Denver, Colorado, and now in the Minneapolis Twin Cities area. And the everyone is going to know you. And everyone's going to talk about you, small town attitude. If you keep that, I think that's a lesson that can be carried around, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you go.
Yep.
If you treat the community like you're part of it, like you have to be part of it, you may not know your neighbors as much just the city I live in the suburbs of Minneapolis is like 82,000 people, right? So it's like bigger than
bigger than my entire county.
Bigger your whole target market, right? But that's the other thing is someone could focus just on my suburb and be a part of it, be a part of the community, be a part of all of the community events, be a part of the things that happen, get to know all the other business owners out there, and probably do really, really well.
Yep.
Right? Like,
support each other, I always tell people, it's like, I pride myself on being able to walk into our local Walmart with my head held high. I don't have to look around and avoid anybody. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna run into somebody that I've done work for. I mean, it's just unavoidable.
Yes.
Which is fine,
Treat
So
your customers like you're going to see them at the Walmart or at lunch or at dinner someday. When you're out with your wife and kids, you're going to see them, right?
exactly.
If you treat them as if you may see them at the Little League game or at the high school football game, right? Like
That's what I tell people.
You may,
I tell people, no offense, I don't want to see you again. If I see you again, it's not. I don't want to see you again because I have to go back and fix your roof. If I see you again, I want to see you on the way at Walmart and say, hey, how's your roof doing?
That's right. That's right. It's a different perspective. That's awesome, man. So, there was a time you worked for another company. Everyone to me seems to have a reason. Like, I think I could do this better or that better.
Yeah.
What were the things that you thought I can make these changes and I'll have a kind of a more successful run at it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about the last person that I worked for.
No, and it's not bad about, and this is another thing I want to tell people. It's not, this is when I ask these questions, sometimes it's not to talk bad about the company that you used to work for, but everyone has their own opinions, right? Like, and their own thoughts. And it's like, man, I wish we did this, or I wish we did that. And hey, I've suggested this and they didn't do it. And, there's what things were you, I guess, instead of about talking about the last company, it's more, what did you want to do when you started your company? What were the things that you're like, I'm going to treat it this way because of, how just my experience in the business so far.
Yeah. So the main reason why, I got out and started on my own, because first off, I knew that I could do it, and I was pretty much doing everything anyways for somebody else. And I wanted to take care of my guys more, my employees, my team members more. And that, I didn't really see that being done. It was just kind of like you said, that split. And it was just a lot of animosity, hey, you're just a sales guy, or, hey, you're just an office person. No, we're on the same team. So I knew that I could develop that relationship a little bit better. And for two, knowing your numbers, I'm a huge numbers guy, and that company, nothing against them, but if you asked for a P&L statement, I couldn't present one. It was just, you never knew where your numbers were. And so when I left, I made a decision. I will know my numbers on a daily basis. It's the first hire that I made was a CFO, and that was the smartest decision ever made with that. So that's kind of what I wanted to do, and I knew that I could run a successful business that way. The writing was on the wall at the last company. I just say that. A
CFO as your first hire. Did you just say that you hired a CFO as your first hire?
I did, yeah. Brought him on.
That is a different way of starting a business. Like, right? Like, that's a different way, man. That's super cool. I think about this a lot too. And that knowing your numbers, that's make or break. There is such a lack of visibility into the health of a business if you are not diligently on top of that, right?
I met so many companies that they couldn't tell you what their margins were. They knew how much they were selling every year. But it's like, okay,
they knew the gross, top line, right?
They knew the gross, but it's like, are you going to have, how much money are you going to have left at the end of the year? Are you going to be able to, pay your suppliers? Are you going to be able to, invest back in your business? They would have no idea until the end of the year. And it's just like, I can't, it's not me, So my degree's in education in math, and so I'm a numbers guy already. And it's like,
you're like, this doesn't add up.
yeah. And if I want to pull up, I want to know my numbers now. Like I said, I know my numbers on a daily basis. If I want to pull up P&L, I can pull up a P&L statement anytime I wanted. And I knew that my business partner had a certain skill set. I have a certain skill set, and doing that stuff wasn't one of them. So, in order to be successful.
So did you hire a full-time CFO, or did you hire it more of on a fractional basis, like a kind of full-time? Wow. That's awesome. So let's talk about the difference between a bookkeeper, an accountant, and a CFO?
So a CFO is, I basically brought him in for his expertise. He
Yep.
was a finance manager, a corporate finance manager for a company for a long time. He was ready to retire, move back to the area. My business partner, also knew him as well too, so it kind of fit. And I pretty much like said, hey, I'm not going to go in business here unless he's aboard as well too. Unless we can get him, then it's a go. But it's more so of that mentor role as well too, because I've never started a business on my own. He's done this, he's managed finances for corporate businesses for years. So, that was that person to be able to get advice from and to know, hey, bounce an idea from, hey, what do you think about this? Or, should we go this route? Or should we go that route? That's the biggest difference, to have him on call and at my disposal 24/7. And I've learned so much from him for the last, how many years, as opposed to, bookkeeper just keeping your books and not really being, invested, like, they just keep your numbers and all that stuff. And accountant just basically, at the end of the year, like, here's your taxes, here's how much you owe, like there's no, there's advice, but there's no strategic advice geared directly towards your business.
Strategy of finance, how to allocate capital. Like that is a different conversation.
Knowing how much cash you have. Cash is king. Like you said, your business is only good as your cash flow. Like knowing that.
That's 24/7.
Right. Some of these people, I've seen the businesses and I've seen them go under. They think, oh, I've got this amount in the bank. Well, no, you don't. Like you don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times that bank account looks nice and it gets withdrawals get made.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
before it's time.
Yeah. And having him, it helps you develop discipline. It really does. Because some of those people, like, they're not disciplined. They see that.
That's right.
They're used to seeing those high numbers. And then they put themselves in a pickle. And then at the end of the year, and then they're like, oh, crap. I'm able to.
So now, like you said, so a bookkeeper, they're just entering data, right? Entering data. It's just, hey, let's make sure that the checkbook balances at the end of the month, right? Like that's a bookkeeper.
Let's reconcile this.
An accountant can help you with tax strategies. They're going to at least build you a P&L maybe, right? They'll build a P&L for you. They could build a balance sheet for you. They can build it for you. They may have some insight into, into hey, you got problems here, or this looks good there.
The biggest thing is,
but a CFO. Go ahead. Sorry.
The biggest thing is you're not their only client. You know what I mean?
You're not their only client. That's something else to think about too, right? Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I've hired fractional CFOs in our business, which did accounting services and provided CFO services on a kind of a part-time basis.
Yeah.
That was also very helpful. I could, but it was because, they would do things like put together hiring forecasts for the year. Mm-hmm. And then we could adjust those hiring forecasts based on on a monthly basis, if we were hitting our revenue goals and things like that, and go, yep, we can afford this person. We can't afford that. Or what? We're going to have to wait a month to hire that person. Or, right, there's a much clearer vision into the execution of your business on a day-to-day basis.
There really is.
So now I want to ask you, what were, you got all that advice, the strategy from this person with, years and years in corporate finance, and what were the top, lessons that were like, man, this is what every business owner should know, but most don't?
Just knowing how to read a balance sheet, basically, I think too. Knowing to be able to look at that and knowing to be able to read knowing how to read the P&L, just knowing how to read all the financial statements.
So how do you read a P&L? Like, what do you look for in the P&L?
I mean, you look at, I mean, obviously you look at your bottom line and your fixed costs, and stuff, but you want to see, you got to keep track of how much your materials are cost and how much, what your gross margins are, where you're losing out at, where you need to cut back on, what you need to add to knowing, basing your business on money going out instead of money coming in is huge.
Basing your business on money going out versus money going in. Yep. That is a different view. And then after the money goes out, there's something left.
Yeah. Yeah. But if the money goes out,
but when the money comes in, that doesn't mean that there's something left yet.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just like, you gotta understand that. And, maybe I need to bump up the advertising and just knowing like, hey, what did I spend last year on this, and what did this generate, and why are my numbers different last year with materials as opposed to this? How much did that raise, because materials are going up all the time. So it's just keeping track of that. Sub labor, fixed costs. Your fixed costs are somewhat controllable, but it's just knowing all that and be able to break that down and keeping those margins where you need them to be.
Yeah, here's where I think a lot of contractors have issues with margins. And it's not just contractors, business owners in general have issues with margins. Is when you initially set your margins, you look to other businesses to kind of, where are they?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You may go, hey, my last company was here. They, we had a 40% gross margin on every, that's what we set it at. So I'm going to set my margin at 40%. When I build my estimate, I'm going to base it on that.
Yep.
That's a guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a guess. Yeah. Like just saying, well, the industry standard is, 35, 40%, whatever that, whatever your industry standard comes in to be, on storm restoration versus retail, wherever you're at in your business, like if you can look at the industry standard, kind of industry average is 35% and, industry net's about this. And, those are broad statements. Mm-hmm. What I want to bring it back to is what you were talking about on your P&L, looking at your materials, just something for specific for people to hear is like, as materials have increased, those have eaten into your margin. If you have not set things up properly, like you may have assumed a specific material price, but those materials have gone up. And so you're making your estimate based on an old material price and not adjusting your margin accordingly as you're going along. Yeah. I owned Roofer Marketers, now part of Job Nimbus, right? Like it's how should I put it? Like when you don't know your margins, there's a lot of people that would come to us about marketing, and they're like, my goodness, 5%, 10% of my gross revenue into marketing. Well, yeah, but if you really know your margin, you can fit that in, right? You can fit in your marketing. You can fit in your fixed costs. You can fit in your variable costs. You can fit in the profit margin that you were hoping to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We have job costs on every single job. So we know what our margins are for every single job. We know what went wrong.
Every single.
Why maybe our margins are a little lower on this. Well, why? And then we adjust for that. And that way we can keep them where we need to be in order to, be able to be around and be able to invest back in the business every year. So take care of our employees.
That's the other part too, right?
Great Christmases. Yeah.
That's right. And being able to invest in your team, being able, man, I can't afford to hire a production manager at that salary.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Why aren't you selling, within that range? And you know what I mean? Like there's answers in the numbers to a lot of the questions that aren't as number related, right? Like you can, and it's tough, man. It's tough running a business, but man, that's a great outlook. And maybe a lot of people may not have access to a CFO, but boy, find some people that you can have conversations with, right?
Yeah.
At least have your accountant set up a good P&L and explain to you the different expense categories, the buckets that these expenses are going into.
Yeah.
And like you're talking about, Lance, is, get it to where you can look at the job costs on it. I mean, being able to know the profitability of every single job that you're doing.
Yeah,
they're not all going to be the same.
No,
right?
no,
they're not all going to be the same.
But you've already, they're not all going to be the same. But when you do so many roofs and you've had so many job costs, you kind of have an idea of, okay, well, I need to base this one off of this one. This is what I need for that. And we make sure that we do that. We meet every couple of weeks and go over all that stuff and adjust where we need to make sure. That's what I say. We make sure we know where our margins need to be at the end of the year to make sure all of my guys' kids have great Christmases. And that's what we care about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other part that you said was investing in the business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're not accounting for that. I heard a crazy thing recently. It was like the way that private equity and venture capital and Wall Street, the way that big business looks at business is that a business should break even in 5 years and be profitable in 10.
Yeah.
That's not how we look at our businesses, right? We are looking to be profitable month one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Month one, not let alone year one. And that assumption that, and not that you can't be, right? If you're doing things well, not that you can't be, but that profitability can be reinvested into the business to have a more sustainable business, the business that will be around that can take care of your customers when they have needs in 10, 15, 20 years, right?
Exactly.
How have you thought about the reinvesting in your business?
So, I mean, basically we're setting ourselves up to where, one day if I want to expand or I want to grow, I'm able to do that. And I invest back in equipment every year. I make sure that the guys have, we're driving around in nice trucks, nice trailers, and things like that. Because, for one, I see these, beater trucks on the road all the time, but that's a safety issue as a company. And for two, how can guys take pride in their work when they're, working with, 20-year-old equipment and stuff, it's just, it doesn't make them feel comfortable. It doesn't make them feel like they're working for somebody who cares about them.
Yeah. That's a big thing, man. Like all of those little things. And then, we talk about brand sometimes and you have a brand, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So when that old truck's driving down the street with that, the old trailer and it's faded and, the wrap is faded from the sun and that's your brand. You're telling people something with
people
that.
Look at you. Yeah, exactly. I want people to be able to be following. I get, calls from people that just follow my vehicles. No, it's a nice looking truck. And I saw your number on the side and I need a roof, they're not going to call that rust bucket.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So. The 97 F-150 with the magnet on the side. You're not calling that guy, Lance? Why? You're not going to call him?
Yeah, I'm not calling those guys. Well, that too.
Chuck does a great job, though. Chuck does a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do, but where are they going to be in 10 years? Where are they going to be?
Chuck's real cheap. Lance. His bid is way below yours.
I tell people that I'm building the business to be able to be around. I want to do your kid's roof. That's my goal. And then obviously investing back in your employees, and we do so much training, and we just build from within, basically.
Yeah, that's the other part, right? Then you have, having that reinvestment. A lot of times we're looking at the reinvestment into equipment and things like that, but that investment in team, investment in their training, investing in their improvement, investing in ways for them to kind of, be, move up the ladder or, things like that. Real important stuff.
Yeah.
What
in your building, a good spot to come to work every day. You know what I mean? Making things look nice.
Yeah.
Not like where just a old beat up dirty shop they come into. We have a nice office, we have a showroom, we have offices here. It's like something they could come into and be proud of, and take their wife into, kids into, and say, this is where mom, this is where dad works.
It's so fun. It's so funny. I had this conversation very, very recently. Why would I could just run this out of my house, man. What do I need?
Yeah.
My sales reps just run from their house. My production guy, he just goes. Why?
Yeah.
Right. Like, why would I do that?
Selling. I ran it out of my house, man. I had my car, a stack of door hangers, and I hired a couple of guys, and they would come to my house and park in the backyard. I know how that is, but that was a long time ago. But we've obviously grown since then. So. Yeah,
but that's and not that's not a good starting point, right? Like I had Juan Reyes, my friend Juan Reyes on the show, months back. He started off with 250 business cards and a dream, man. Like, he just went door to door until somebody bought a roof. He didn't even have a roofing crew to like. Yep. If you are in that I need to start phase, that's where you're at. Yeah, but have the vision of that this is, if you want to have a team that sticks with you, a team that feels comfortable coming to work every day and is proud of where they work. And, those are those things that you reinvest in along the way.
That was the mindset. I'll start this out the first year. Next year, I want to invest. I want to build up, and I want to get a building.
Yeah, have that vision, right? Have the 1 year, have the 3 year. I think it's hard to see 5 years ahead. To me, like, you can have an idea 5 years from now, but boy, that's to me, I think that, you could, there's a big distance there,
Yeah, you don't want to get too far out of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's helped you find success with Buckeye?
I don't know if it's Buckeye in general, but just, running a business. I know everyone says it, but you got to find your purpose and your why. Like you said, I know everybody says that, find your why, you know what I mean? And I really do believe that, because I think without your why, then I think that your focus lacks passion. And if you're lacking passion, then how successful can you really be if you're not passionate about what you're doing? I have this thing with us to where people have these mission statements. Every business has them. I used to have it, but I changed the direction of that. And instead of a mission statement, we have what they call a mission mindset. And our slogan is roofing for a purpose. And basically what we do is, I have a 6-year-old son that's autistic. And so we give back to the community a lot. And we host an annual autism awareness event at the shop, local businesses, food vendors, all kinds of stuff. And then we help raise money for the community and donate back to, all the charities in town. And so that, we have the logo on our, when you walk in, and, we have the puzzle piece symbols and stuff. And so that's kind of, I work for them, and, my fiance and I, we have 3 boys together, and my goal is to one day hand that down to them. So that's my purpose. And that's why I continue to do what I do, because, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail them. So that's my why. So I work for that purpose, and that's what I'm going to do eventually. So
that's awesome, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.